What if I told you that art isn't about beauty, that it isn't about skill, that it isn't even about meaning? What if I told you art could be total nonsense? In 1916, a group of artists, poets and downright anarchists decided that the world had lost its mind, and so art should too.
You know what I do when the world goes mad? I make a pot of tea and I keep my head down. I don't start painting my dreams.
They called it Dada.
Dada, 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 Dada.
It was weird, rebellious, and in some ways it changed everything. But did it go too far? Was it genius? Was it just actual nonsense? And does it still matter today?
I once went too far. Ended up in Luxembourg at a Nietzsche seminar. Thought they said neatwear. Spent the whole day waiting for them to draw the cardigan raffle.
Dadaism was more than just an art movement. It was a full-blown rejection of tradition, authority and logic itself. It questioned everything, even what art was in the first place. And by the end of this video, you might never look at art or memes or modern culture the same way again. Is Dada amazing? It's 1916, the world is a mess. World War I is tearing the world apart, and millions are dying for reasons no one really understands. Political trust is gone, everything that was supposed to make sense just doesn't anymore. So in the middle of all this chaos, this absurdity, a group of young artists and intellectuals gather in Zurich, Switzerland, at a tiny nightclub called Cabaret Voltaire. Among them were Hugo Ball, Tristan Tzara, Jean Arp and Hans Richter. And they filled Cabaret Voltaire with wild performances, bizarre poetry and nonsensical music.
Regardez-moi bien, je suis idiot.
Their thought was this:
Gin and tonic barkeep, and leave the bottle. Tonight we are forgetting about this crap world the best way there is.
No, their thought was this: if the world has become this absurd and makes no sense, maybe art shouldn't make any sense too. Dada was born not as a traditional art movement, but as a rejection of everything traditional.
The eternal question. Does it matter? I don't know. But I do know that I once glued a pancake to a typewriter and called it Untitled Number 47. It changed nothing.
Who the hell were that? We're not looking for another character around here, thanks mate. Hey, this better not reduce my appearance fee.
The word Dada itself was chosen at random. Some say it came from a French children's word for hobby horse, while others claim it was picked by stabbing a knife into a dictionary. But that was the point. Dada was about rejecting reason, defying explanation and embracing the absurd. Dada wasn't really art.
You can say that again, mate. Rubbish!
It was anti-art. Its goal was to make you question everything. What is the meaning of art? What is the meaning of life? Instead of producing traditional paintings and sculptures that the world was used to, Dada preferred randomness, absurdity and chaos. Why paint a perfect landscape when the world itself is a shambles? Instead of carefully planning compositions, Dadaists would use chance and nonsense to create their work, doing things like tearing up newspapers and gluing random pieces together. They created performances where people screamed gibberish. They wrote poems by simply pulling words out of a hat.
That's how you write some of these videos, isn't it?
These videos are carefully crafted, as you well know. We, sir, are art.
The idea was to shock, confuse and disrupt. Tristan Tzara, one of Dada's key figures, wrote a Dada manifesto. In it, he explained that logic and meaning were the enemies of true creativity. He believed that embracing nonsense was the only way to break free from the restrictions society placed on art. If art had once been about beauty and skill, Dada made it about rebellion and unpredictability.
Restrictions? Pfft. I tried painting inside the lines once. It was the darkest day of my life.
He's weird. I like him.
He's Dada. Probably the most famous or infamous piece of Dada artwork was Marcel Duchamp's Fountain. Simply a urinal signed with fake name Armut from 1917. It's meant to challenge the most fundamental idea of what art can be. Could anything be art if an artist declared it to be art? Fountain caused an outrage, but that's what it was meant to do, wasn't it? And it changed art forever.
I once tried to sign my bathroom mirror and call it Self-Portrait in Reflection. Nobody bought it. Not even Mother.
Another famous Dadaist, Hugo Ball, performed poetry that wasn't really poetry at all. Dressed in a pretty ridiculous looking costume, he described himself as a magic bishop. The magic bishop then recited pure gibberish, words that weren't really words at all. It was a way of rejecting the idea of language completely, stripping it of logic and turning it into pure expression.
Olifanto bambla, o bambla, rosica habla hor, e giga forar, hijo bloico, rusula rubio, holaka holala, alago boom, blago boom, blago boom, posso patata, susu budu subudu budu budu, hasta matusa, data balunca, kunta.
It wasn't totally unstructured. As Hugo Ball explains, I have invented a new series of verses without words, or sound poems, in which the balancing of the vowels is gauged and distributed according to the value of the initial line.
Jolifanto, bambla, o fale bambla.
Prosiga mfa habla horem.
Igiga horomen.
Higo bloika rasul huj. Hey, why aren't you doing this with us? I feel like a right Walbert.
I like it. I could do this all day. In fact, I think I already have this outfit.
You're doing part of Carawayne, a sound poem by Hugo Ball, performed at Cabaret Voltaire in 1916. You want me to get the Dada guy to do it and cut you out?
Holaka, holala, and logo bum. Blago bum.
Okay, that'll do. Hannah Hock, one of the few women in the Dada movement, pioneered the art of photo montage. She cut up newspaper images, magazine ads and political posters, rearranging them into surreal and sometimes disturbing collages. Pieces like Dada Dance, High Finance, Heads of State, and probably her most famous piece, Cut with the Kitchen Knife Dada through the last Weimar beer belly cultural epoch in Germany.
Say that last one again.
No, I won't. Her work challenged gender roles and mocked authority. This is probably my favourite style or part of Dadaism. Maybe it's just a little easier to resonate with, or maybe it feels a little bit more familiar, because in the 100 or so years since first being created, it has been either copied or inspired similar style artworks, many of which I love. Stuff like Monty Python, Terry Gilliam's animation style. But we have to remember quite how new this was back then. The thing I like about photo montage is that you're using another art form, photography, to make something completely new. Hannah Hock herself says, I've always tried to exploit the photograph. I use it like colour, or as a poet uses words.
Beautiful.
Jean Arp took randomness to a whole new level. Instead of carefully composing his art, he would tear up pieces of paper and drop them onto a canvas, gluing them wherever they landed. This method was a deliberate challenge to traditional and rational composition, rejecting reasoning and really embracing randomness. Arp explained this process. I allow myself to be guided by the work at the time of its birth. I have confidence in it. I do not distrust it. It is my way of reacting to the world's absurdity. Dada would spread from Zurich across Europe, popping up in Berlin, Paris, and even out of Europe to New York. In Berlin, Dada artists like George Grosz and John Hartfield would use their drawings and collages to attack the German government and the corruption of those in power. In Paris, Dada mixed with other avant-garde movements. A young poet was particularly influenced, André Breton, and he founded a new movement that developed the absurdity of Dada but mixed it with dreams and the subconscious. That movement was Surrealism. So without Dadaism, there would be no Salvador Dali or René Magritte. In fact, if you'd like a video on Surrealism, let me know.
Stick us something in the comments hole. Be amazing whatever.
By the 1920s, Dada had faded, and many of its artists had moved on. I guess that's the way with something like Dadaism. Its thing, its power, is in its novelty. Once that goes, it's going to burn out pretty fast. But that spirit, that rebellious energy, that's something that never dies. It's not just that spirit and energy of Dada that lives on. Look around you and you can see its influence everywhere. Look at a Banksy that mocks the establishment. That's Dada. Ever laughed at a surreal TikTok that makes no sense?
Don't forget to give us a follow on the TikTok, you absolute superstars.
That's Dada. Conceptual art that values ideas over techniques? Dada. And it's not just art that Dada has influenced. It's in punk music. It's in comedians who use absurdity, nonsense humour or randomness. Even things or people that might not directly reference Dada as an influence, they have that same Dada spirit running through them. When the world stops making sense to you, maybe the best response is to make art, to understand it, to reject it, create, be amazing whatever. Dadaism challenged the idea of what art could be, for better or for worse. It was ridiculous. It was often hated, but that probably meant it was working. So what do you think? Is Dada brilliant or just nonsense? Let me know in the comments.
Why choose? It's brilliantly nonsensical. Just like me. Bossa fataka holala.
Oh, yes, me too, sir. I'm ruddy nonsense, me. Tell him I'm ruddy nonsense too, aren't I? Silver tomato pots.
Pathetic.
I can't quite make my mind up about Dada. I love surreal things. Art that I love, TV, films, are often surreal or just downright weird. I often like these surreal or weird things because they're funny. Like, how did they come up with that? Or, you can't do that, that's weird. But with Dadaism, that weirdness seems to exclude fun or funniness. I know that was kind of the point considering the horrors of the world when it started. But in terms of whether I personally love it or not, I'm missing the funny bit. Is it a bit too serious? Is it taking itself a bit too seriously? Dare I even say a bit pretentious? When I look at Hugo Ball in his outfit, the Magic Bishop, that is funny, but I don't think he meant it to be. I do love the idea that Dada promotes that anything can be art and we are all artists, but I feel a bit uncomfortable with cutting out craft or technical ability from the process. I'm conflicted between which is the most important part of art, the actual idea, or taking the time to learn how to skillfully get that idea across. This makes me think about AI technology today. Is it a good or a bad thing that the lack of technical ability no longer stops you from creating? Whether that's art, videos or music. Is that a revolution or a loss? On one hand, creating is suddenly open to all, with no expectation or tradition, and more ideas means more good ideas. But on the other hand, quantity doesn't necessarily mean quality, and is creativity about the process or the result? The thing you made, the reason you made it, or how you made it? I guess that's what Dada was throwing out at the world.
Be amazing whatever.
I hate the fact that as I've grown older, I've grown less rebellious. I've always been drawn to people and things that want to mess with the system or the way things are. I think I've mellowed as I've grown older, and so something about that makes me look at people like Hugo Ball or Marcel Duchamp and think, come on fellas, stop attention seeking, stop being annoying, we get it, you're being disruptive. But then I think, this is why Dadaism is so important. These are important thoughts and actions in a society. We need the people who don't mind ridicule, the rule breakers who shake things up. I'm glad I'm researching subjects like this on my YouTube journey, to reignite not just my wonder for the world and find the amazing in it, but to maybe reignite that rebellious streak in me that is so easy to lose when we get lost in living our lives day to day.
You're no rebel these days, mate. Get over it. You a nerd. A big boring nerd.
Another thing I don't really understand about Dadaism is how they feel that traditional art felt meaningless in the face of such a horrible world. I feel like at the darkest times is when art means the most. I think of the war poems of Wilfred Owen or Lawrence Binyon or something like Gassed by John Singer Sargent. And they're so emotive and full of meaning. Think of some of your favourite songs and how they hit so much more when you're sad. Or the stereotypical depressed artist struggling with life or disillusioned with the world but producing pieces of beauty. I get that Dada wanted to give the finger to the world, but to give the finger to art? You can't love art if you do that, can you? And I love art. Maybe I'm envious because my brain cannot come up with something that is so original or so revolutionary as Dada. Maybe we're all a little desensitised to something like Dada, having had decades of exposure to modern art or new original ideas, that we forget how shocking and revolutionary an idea this was, or that we've seen so many parodies or rip-offs of this kind of style that we can't truly appreciate quite how new it was. I feel I might be in danger of falling into a Dada trap here, but surely the very fact of saying something is meaningless gives it meaning. It makes you want to discuss its meaningless more than any traditional meaning would. And so the fact that one of the big questions that arises here is, what is art, has got to be a good thing. We've got to be curious. With Dada, I don't feel like looking at individual pieces of art. I feel like trying to understand Dada as a whole, like Dada is the piece of art. And do I like it when I stand back and admire the piece? Yeah, I do. I like it because I don't understand all of it. It certainly makes me feel something. And that is what art should do. In researching this video, I've got more questions than answers. But I think that too is Dada. Because of Dada, because of everything. Despite everything. Be amazing, whatever. Subscribe for more inspiration from art, science, technology, philosophy and more. And please give us a like. We're a new channel trying to grow and that would really help. There's amazing in the world.